During his rally tonight in Minnesota, the president spoke about his successful negotiations with North Korea. Oh, the media ignored that, too, as well as the IG report. Take a look.
They stopped shooting missiles over Japan. They stopped all nuclear testing. They stopped nuclear research. They stopped rocketry. They stopped everything that you'd want them to stop, and they blew up sites where they test and do the testing.
Yeah. Oh, they forgot to report all this stuff. All right, we have a lot more tomorrow night. Let not your heart be troubled. Will always be fair, balanced. There she is, Laura Ingraham. All right, what wiseacre remark are you going to make about Hannity tonight, Ingraham?
No, I was actually, when the president said they stopped rocketry, I just think of my sons doing the Boy Scouts. You know those little engines and the rockets? I'm like, what's wrong? They can do that. What's okay if they do like rocketry? We just don't want coming toward us.
We had more fun with those phony rockets. You pump them up. We thought it was the greatest. The crowd went nuts over that, which is pretty interesting.
No, it was fantastic. Awesome show, by the way, Hannity, as always. It's
Welcome
great
back, by the way. Good to have you back.
Oh, fantastic. And good evening from Washington. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle. We have another must-see show for you tonight. Fresh back from the border in a fresh perspective, the president signs an executive order to illegal immigrant families, keeping them together. Wow. But will it diffuse the outrage? Speaking of outrage, an aging actor posts obscene and threatening comments about the president's young son, Barron, and a cabinet official. Raymond Arroyo exposes some politically unhinged celebrities and one who's anything but in tonight's edition of Seen and Unseen. Also, tonight we'll reveal the shocking and increasingly dangerous tactics of the left, including harassing administration officials in public. Meanwhile, we look into a stunning bombshell. Did FBI agents actually commit crimes to cover up for Hillary? And China may be infiltrating our universities to steal our high-tech secrets. We've been talking about this before, but we have new info for you. We'll talk about it later in the show. But first, a borderless world. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Over the past week, listening to the anchors and pundits and politicians, one would think what they're really upset about is family separation at the border.
If we treated American kids like this, can you imagine the reaction and the blowback like we're seeing right now with these migrant kids?
How do you explain this to your kids, that they're no longer, these kids who are being separated from their parents are being ripped apart?
This should be placed squarely at his feet. He can handle this. This is not a question of passing a law. Stop the criminalizing of babies and separating them from their families.
Families are being torn apart. Who in America could do this?
Okay, so they want us to believe what that really is getting to them, what they really care about, is keeping children with their parents. Okay, family unity, it's all that matters. Of course they don't believe in open borders. Who would believe in that? And of course they don't think everyone, minors or adults who bring them across the border, should be able to stay. But let's take a deeper look at what's really going on. Here's a story from NPR from back in 2015. It notes that at one point, President Obama was also detaining 2,000 women and their children who crossed the border illegally. But what happened? International migration activists and the ACLU filed lawsuits, and ultimately courts shut down the largest family detention centers, the centers that we're now supposed to believe the Democrats want up and running again. As we've been pointing out, this is all related to that 1997 Flores settlement and subsequent court rulings that prohibit the federal government from holding children longer than 20 days. So if families aren't separated and can't be housed together, well, we have one humongous catch and release nightmare on our hands. Basically, it means that any alien with a child will get a fast pass into the country. The Democrats now decry the separation of families at the border and demand, okay, that families be kept together. But where exactly would we do that, since all the family detention centers have been shut down by that 2015 court ruling, a decision the far-left Ninth Circuit affirmed in 2016. In fact, 3 years ago, 136 House Democrats opposed the Obama administration's detention of families keeping them together. I'm saying detention of families again, not of children, of families who had been kept together as their case was adjudicated.
The Obama administration was challenged on family detention, and they lost. And Judge Gee clearly said their family detention policies violated the Flores settlement agreement. They were not caring for immigrant children.
Okay, so Democrats' real answer now is simply set them free. Just go ahead. Come back maybe at some point for a hearing in the future. As a result of liberal activism and policies like DACA, what we ended up doing was we encouraged more families to come from Central America. We encouraged more minors to be trafficked, more deaths in the desert, more illegality, and yes, more strains on you, the American taxpayer. Nice going, guys. President Trump tried to send a strong message that America was not going to tolerate border crashers and began to prosecute anyone who violated federal law. That's entering the country without permission, not coming through a regular port of entry. Well, part of his reasoning was to discourage people, again, from making that harrowing journey northward, putting themselves and children in danger. But of course, after nonstop media coverage of the family separation and the public outcry that followed, Trump ended up relenting. He signed an executive order today that would allow families to remain together as they await adjudication of their cases. He's asking the Defense Department to work with Homeland Security to house the families. We're going to see how that executive order, of course, is greeted by the courts.
You're going to have a lot of happy people.
Well, happy? Not quite. The left has already moved on to their next mantra. We shouldn't be detaining anyone.
I give him zero credit, and now I'm just concerned, Wolf, that we are going to move to indefinite detention of families at our border, and that we're not going to solve this.
This order means that families will be incarcerated together, meaning the children will be incarcerated with the parents.
If you think about the people that are being deported, these are people, as you said, that have made the most desperate journey of their life through some of the most dangerous conditions in the world.
Again, they were for family unification yesterday. Today, they're against family unification if they're detained. You see how the goal keeps moving, the goalpost? It's important that all of you know, by the way, what's fueling a lot of this. The well-funded organizations that work overtime to gum up our border enforcement efforts and push for what ends up being essentially a borderless world. Here are some of the nonprofits funded by billionaire globalists for their grassroots activism and well-orchestrated media campaigns. Of course, no big surprise, the ACLU. Then there's the American Immigration Council. Who could forget the Center for Human Rights and Constitutional Law? Then there's the Refugee and Immigration Center for Education and Legal Services, better known as RICES. And then the Detention Watch Network. And then finally, the group formerly known as La Raza Unidos US. Well, here's the spokesperson of another open borders group, the list goes on, the Rio Grande Valley Equal Voice Network.
And it's very difficult to track them through all those different agencies. Ultimately, what really worries us is the idea of families being kept together in detention. ICE has a horrible track record for overseeing children.
Okay, again, the HHS, Refugee Resettlement, that handles the children. Family unification in a detention center, that's a different deal. But look, when you listen to the activists and the politicians today, after the president signed his executive order, they revealed themselves. Their goal is simple. They want to show the American people that borders themselves are fundamentally unjust. They're a violation of human rights. Free movement, free peoples, you've heard it. So for years, they've advocated for restrictive court rulings that tie the government's hands and limit our ability to protect our own people, control our own immigration, who comes and who goes, in a serious way. It's a transnational push for the free movement of people, and it requires essentially amnesty for all but perhaps the most violent criminal offenders. And even a few of them, as we've seen in recent months, might slip through the process. As for you, American citizens, and all of you legal immigrants watching, you're just supposed to basically pick up the pieces, deal with it, deal with all the fallout, Pay the money they're going to have to pay to cover all these bills, and get ready to welcome whoever comes for whatever motivation, no matter how they get here. And that's the angle. Let's discuss this now with John Davidson, senior correspondent for The Federalist and immigration attorney Francisco Hernandez. It's great to have both of you on. We're going to be joined in a few moments by Dave Bratt for the congressional update on all of this. John, let's start with you. I think there's so much misinformation out there on how this process works. But we have created this nightmare at our border by over many years refusing to enforce the laws that are on the books. John, you wrote a phenomenal piece in The Federalist laying this out. Where are we tonight on this issue?
Well, we're in a lot different place than we were just a few months ago. In March, I was down in McAllen, Texas, and it's in the Rio Grande Valley there. It's the busiest sector for border crossings. And I was shocked to find out what the system actually is. And I don't think a lot of Americans realize when families come across the border illegally, they're processed. Most of them claim asylum. They're processed by ICE. And when they're released, ICE in McAllen just drives them to a Greyhound station and drops them off there. And then the Catholic Charities, which is just a few blocks away, brings buses and vans over and picks them up and brings them into a respite center and helps them call relatives and friends and family members in the United States, makes sure they get bus tickets to get where they're going, and sends them on their way later that night. Most of the men in this facility had electronic ankle monitors, and many of them told me that as soon as they got to wherever they were going, which is all over the country, they just cut the monitors off and throw them away. That's the system. And if you look at federal records, you see that the number of asylum seekers that have their cases go through the system and are adjudicated, a large number of them are decided in absentia, which means they just never show up for them. And that's the system that we have in place today. And I think that's the system that the Trump administration is trying to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, they reacted
exactly.
to saying, we can't keep doing this the way it is. Francisco, I know you have a big heart and you want to welcome everybody into the United States who wants to come, no matter how they get here. I mean, and I'm saying that because I know you're a great person. But this system now puts children in jeopardy. It puts women in jeopardy. And it enriches the cartels and the human traffickers because they're making big bucks. The Border Patrol last night down in the San Diego sector, chapter and verse, they said, the people profiting are the cartels and the human traffickers. Francisco.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It is a lot more profitable and a lot less dangerous for the traffickers than drugs. It costs about $10,000 per person to be smuggled from Central America. And Ms. Ingraham, you and I know this, that by the time they get to the border, it's the point of no return. They're not going back. The problem here is that the administration tried to send a message to tell people don't come because we're going to separate you from your families, from your children. But the people were already 3 to 6 months into their trek. They're not exactly getting Wi-Fi in the desert, and they're not checking their Twitter account. They're already on their way up here, and the smugglers have already been paid. So as soon as the smugglers get them here, they just want to dump them on us, and then we've got to deal with what it is. Now, we have to admit that as bad as our political asylum process is, it is a legal way to try to get here. Why don't we change it to where we give yearly renewable work permits where only the breadwinner is going to risk their life to come up here, and then we don't have to have all these people fleeing their source country. Honduras is a lawless nation, is a Somalia of Latin America.
Well, we'll talk to Dave Bratt about
that. They're probably going to be separated from their child.
Yeah, we'll talk to Congressman Bratt about
that
in just a moment. But we have a situation right now, as it exists, that the president, I think, was trying to deal with, and I think a reasonable way nothing is good here. It's either open borders and let people into the country, and we know how that works. It encourages more, or it's separating the families, which is a harrowing thing. Images are terrible. Nobody likes to see it. So John, I want to go back. Hold on. I want to go back to you. The president came out today, and the media was all blaring it. President Trump backtracks, reverses course. At the same time, he says they're not getting rid of the zero tolerance policy. Correct, John?
Yeah, that's right. And that's what a lot in the media had a problem with, because the executive order keeps in place that zero tolerance policy. The Trump administration, rightly or wrongly, and I think they were not prepared to do this when they did, they're saying we're going to prosecute every single person who crosses the border illegally. That's an insane thing to do if you have the system we have, right? But the executive order keeps that in place and just says we're going to keep the families together while their asylum claims and their immigration status is adjudicated. Now, obviously, that runs up against this 1997 Flores Agreement, which says you can't keep kids for more than 20 days, even if they're with their parents. And so it's the Trump administration has sort of provoked a showdown now. It's like a challenge to Congress. Like, this is going to get struck down. So is Congress going to act?
Yeah, Francisco, I want to read, hold on, Francisco, I want to read something that Dick Durbin said. This just came in. He said, make no mistake, the president is doubling down on his zero tolerance policy. His new executive order criminalizes asylum seekers and seeks to indefinitely detain their children. Locking up whole families is no solution at all. Back to the point I made in the Angle, Francisco, it was never really about family unification. It was about having no detaining at all. So let's be clear about what people were really upset about. They're upset about prosecuting people who cross the border illegally, correct?
Miss Ingram, both sides, both parties have blood on their hands. Okay, now this is the problem here is, well,
Blood
first you got to give the president credit.
About? Francisco,
well,
you can call me Laura. You've been on the show for like 20 years, okay? Fox for 20 years. Call me Laura.
We're in Texas and we have manners.
But Francisco, honestly, when you say blood on your hands, that doesn't help, okay? We want to find a compassionate solution. However, we have the rule of law, and what the Democrats are doing is they're revealing themselves here. They don't want anyone detained. They want anyone who crosses the border illegally with a child, or frankly without a child, unless they're a murderer, I guess, to be released pending adjudication, correct?
Both parties have failed to take action on immigration in Congress.
The answer is correct.
That's really where it belongs. You got to, I'll give the president credit for, hey, I made a mistake. He's correcting it. I'm not going to beat up on him because he corrected it.
But you don't want anyone detained,
he has
correct?
Failed.
Francisco, try to answer the question. You don't want any of the like Durbin, mothers, fathers, families, they shouldn't be detained at all. Once they cross
not the
children.
Look, an adult can make the decision, but not the children, okay?
Okay.
We got to place
we got to
the
get to
children
Dave
somewhere.
Brad because we got to get the congressional update, guys. Thank you so much. And speaking of Congress, I said we've witnessed a strange spectacle on the House floor today. Finger-pointing and heated words between House Speaker Paul Ryan, House Freedom Caucus Chair Mark Meadows. It appeared to be over immigration, but let's get the inside scoop from Congressman Dave Brad. Congressman, what was going on there on the floor?
Yeah, I think there was an exchange about what the initial terms of the original Goodlatte bill and the compromise bill.
Okay, no one understands what Goodlatte bill is, but we're talking about the immigration bills that are on Capitol Hill now. The Goodlatte bill is closer to what Donald Trump originally said he wanted, but from all accounts, it's never going to pass. It has no chance, dead on arrival, correct? That's not going anywhere. So now we have the compromise bill. Now, a lot of my hardline friends are like, this is amnesty, doesn't really build the wall. It kind of does, but it doesn't. What's the truth?
Yeah, no, the truth is it doesn't have the 4 pillars that Trump wanted in it. It doesn't have...
He says it does.
Yeah, it doesn't end chain migration, ends 2 of the 5 categories. It doesn't really get rid of the lottery system. There's no E-Verify in it. It doesn't take care of sanctuary cities, et cetera. But getting to what Francisco said, he says it's up to Congress. We don't do anything. Blood's on our hands. That's baloney. 6 months ago in January, the Republicans... the Senate Democrats shut down government over this issue, right? They said, give us 700,000 DACA. And we said, OK, we'll compromise. We'll work with you halfway. And they said no. And then Donald Trump comes in and says, we'll do 1.8 million.
Yeah, he doubled it. I was like, whoa, what was that all about?
The Democrats said no.
Yeah.
And then we had
called their bluff.
We have 25 Democrats, 25 Republicans working with 200 Democrats on a bill, on a moderate bill that we're talking about. And no Democrats are showing up. And then last night, the ultimate icing on the cake to show Francisco's totally wrong, we said Ted Cruz and Mark Meadows put in bills on the family unification part. Where that's not the issue. You had it right in your angle, right? It's about open borders, and ultimately the rule of law is at stake.
They do not want anyone.
They don't want any of it. Right?
This is not about unifying families, as heartwarming as that is, and as we all are worried about that. But if they wanted that and it's like, okay, we'll adjudicate your case. Oh, you're going to keep them in internment camps.
Right.
Well, I mean, thanks.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so the net conclusion is, what do they want? They want an issue in November. They don't really want to help
They
the
don't want
kids.
to solve it.
They don't want to unify families. We got bills to do that. They don't want a rational immigration policy. They don't want DACA kids. They say they want to help the DACA kids. They're voting no with their feet.
Now, on chain migration, why are they only eliminating 2 of the 5 categories? So they would allow adult children to come in,
Yep.
Spouses, which is fine,
Right.
and parents.
And parents. Right.
And what else?
Right. Well, that's about it. And
Yeah.
all you need is that, because then you got 1.8 DACA eligible,
It
right,
should
kids.
be just minor children, right?
And then
Minor,
and that-
children and spouses.
Yeah, and just so people know, that blows it up from 1.8 million to 3 or 4 million, et cetera, right? And then what are our border security people going to be doing? Can they do border enforcement when we say we're going to do border enforcement? No, they're all going to be processing all those people who have no paperwork coming from Guatemala, Honduras, et cetera, right? So you think they have any documentation to show who the parents are, what their status
Nobody,
is?
this is what I'm
There's
saying.
nothing.
Our Border Patrol, when I was there in San Diego last night, these are the most amazing people, by the way.
They are. They're heroes.
Great men and women.
Right.
And I said, how do you determine some? And we have example after example of MS-13 coming in with minors. Let me just give you a couple. May 2nd, 2018, Border Patrol apprehended an adult male who was traveling with his supposed 1-year-old son. He's a known MS-13 gang member, previously removed from the country in 2012.
Right.
His minor child was released to an uncle. This goes on and on. A rape convict, MS-13, female MS-13 apprehended last month, goes on and on and on. With children, because why, Congressman? You bring a child in, and it's like you can't separate the families. Okay.
Yeah, and it's explosive. Bruce Westerman, one of my colleagues, 60 million lethal doses of fentanyl came in over the southern border in the last 6 months. 60 million lethal doses of fentanyl. So it's MS-13, it's the illegal drugs, and it's the rule of law that's ultimately at stake, right? Where are the Democrats on
Democrats
this?
tell stories with pictures.
Right.
Republicans cite numbers and charts. You need the emotion.
You're right.
They have it on their side. But is this thing going to pass? Immigration bill?
I don't think either will pass.
Well, and then we're going to keep having a chain migration explosion in the United States and across the border. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
that
Laura.
insight.
You bet.
How low can they go, by the way? We're going to show you how the radical fringe seems to have lost its collective, whatever is left of its mind, during the latest tantrum over Trump. Stay there. Oh, by now you've all heard of the Trump derangement syndrome, but this latest immigration crisis seems to have triggered the left into something far more dark and potentially dangerous. When media outlets allow Nazi and Holocaust comparisons to go unchallenged, it's no wonder that fringe groups are going off the rails. It all started Monday when an Occupy Wall Street account tweeted out supposedly humorous instructions on how to assassinate ICE agents. The tweet has since been deleted. Then yesterday, the radical leftist group Antifa tweeted out a database with the addresses of 1,500 ICE agents and their families. Might this lead to real violence? And where is the condemnation? Well, let's examine that with former Chuck Schumer aide, Chris Hahn, and former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer. It's great to see both of you. Chris, let's start with you on this. I know you don't condone any of this stuff, and like both sides can get wild and wacky. After spending time down at the border yesterday, and I had been there, I think the last time I was really there was like 1997, doing a report on the border all those years ago. So being there last night and talking to the border agents, these are just great people. I mean, they're just trying to do their job, and Washington seems so far away for them. And to have organizations post their addresses, and they all have children too. How did we get here?
That's horrible, and that should never happen. We could have a real debate about what we want to do at our border. We could come up with solutions and comprehensive immigration reform, or we could stop what President Trump started, which he did today, hopefully. But we don't have to be vile about it. And I don't condone that at all. And I think that most mainstream people don't. Look, people's tempers and passions were definitely enraged over this issue. I know myself, I have been very upset by this, what I've been seeing from the border. But there's no reason to start calling people Nazis, and there's definitely no reason to provoke violence. And look, it happens to me all the time from the right. I get lots of hate emails. I got dozens of them after my appearances this week. It happens all the time. It's not good. It should never be good, and it should never happen.
Yeah, but we're in the public eye. I mean, you and I and Ari, we're all used to it. I mean, it's like bring it on. It doesn't bother me. I mean, this is like wimpy men who sit in their basements and their BVDs, like, oh, I'm cool.
Absolutely.
I'm on Twitter. It's like they're not real men in my view. So that doesn't bother me at all. But Ari, these are people just doing their jobs day in and day out. You also had Kirstjen Nielsen, obviously a public figure. She was in a Mexican restaurant last night, and she was, just trying to get some dinner. I think we have the video, and you know, this is what happened to her.
Yep.
She basically driven out of a restaurant. So now a cabinet secretary can't eat dinner, apparently. Ari.
Laura, one of the reasons these things happen is because there is no uprising against the groups that do it. There's no shaming of them. There's no sense of opprobrium that you've crossed a line. The only people who really blow the whistle are Fox News and conservatives. And I assure you, if it was done in reverse, if a conservative engaged in that type of behavior, the New York Times, CBS, CNN, ABC, they would all collectively blow a gasket because they want to draw a line about what's acceptable and not acceptable. So when so much of the media sits relatively silent about these types of behaviors, it only encourages them to keep doing it because nobody they care about is correcting them. So the path is open to them.
I mean, can you imagine, Chris, Mika, and Joe, if, as Ari said, the situation were reversed and we had like all members of some liberal group, their home phone numbers published, and we know where you live. It would be intimidation. You're intimidating people from speaking out. It would be wall-to-wall coverage, and they would basically say it's a First Amendment human rights issue, and you're endangering the lives of innocent Americans. But we're all supposed to just shrug it all off here.
Well, 2 points. One, I'm old enough to remember 2010 when many people were shut down by people who called themselves the Tea Party, including in town hall forums and other forms of protest across America. It happens. People get passionate. As for the Secretary of Homeland Security, she probably should have been at the border trying to understand what was going on and not sitting in a Mexican restaurant where she could be protest, and she was subject to protest. Now, look, I'm not all for people getting protest wherever they were, but she should have been at the border that night. She should have been wondering what's going on. She still has not visited a detention center where children are being held. And that's on her.
Wait a second. Obama, remember when Obama went down there in 2014, Ari? And he went and gave a speech, and he was really close to the border. He didn't even go to the border. He was in Texas when thousands and thousands of people were pouring across the border. So this big deal about, I didn't go to the border. Yeah, Jay Johnson went at the same time when he was being pushed and pushed and pushed, and this thing had been building for several months. They blew off the concern for several months until it got really heated in June of 2014.
Jay Johnson told Obama that he would get in.
Hold on. Let me get in here. You had your chance. There's a huge difference between a member of Congress holding a town hall, an organized political event, and being heckled and having somebody from an opposing party, in this case the Tea Party in 2010, speak out against them. And somebody, like a border agent, an ICE agent, or even a cabinet secretary, having their privacy invaded by people who don't like what they do in the course of their public life.
She was in public.
You can't compare the two. One is their daily job. The other is their private life. And you don't want to open that door. If you start to open that door, then what should people? Should conservatives go to the restaurants where the Democrats eat? Conservatives have beefs too.
They'd be hammered.
You
Chris,
don't
I want to know
anybody to do that.
It would be hammered. If this happened to any of the Obama people, if Loretta Lynch was subjected to this in a restaurant, Chris, I'm sorry, I don't think you'd be like, it's a public space. You'd be going crazy. And I actually would be too. It's outrageous. Shouldn't happen. Protests on the street. Protests when she's on her way out of the restaurant.
Look. Again, I agree. I think they should.
I got to get to this other thing because I want to know what Chris thinks of this. Today, the website Splinter published the cell phone number of senior presidential advisor Stephen Miller, who's since reportedly been deluged with vile texts and so forth. So is this the new normal? And apparently they're all celebrating this, that they put up his personal cell phone. They've been suspended for Twitter for like 5 seconds for doing that, apparently. I'm joking, but it's a minor slap on the wrist, Twitter jail.
It is horrible, but President Trump did give out Lindsey Graham's phone number during the presidential election, and we all remember that. Lindsey Graham did the video where he destroyed his cell phone many different ways.
Smart.
So it's horrible. Smart. It's horrible. It should never happen. The president shouldn't have done it during the campaign, and this group should definitely not have done it now.
All right, check this one out, gents. One celebrity's Trump bashing now. So outlandish that the Secret Service has been contacted. Raymond Arroyo looks at Hollywood totally unhinged in an inspiring moment, too, in Seen and Unseen. Next. It's time now for our Seen and Unseen segment, where we expose what's really behind the cultural stories of the day. And tonight, a special Hollywood edition, starting with an aging star who has made threatening comments about the president's young son. Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author, the Will Wilder series, Raymond Arroyo, has a shocking lineup of tales from Tinseltown tonight. One bright light as well.
Yes, we have a bright light. Let's start with Peter Fonda.
Yeah, let's start with a negative.
Let's start with a negative.
And isn't that more fun?
The darkness to the light, Laura.
Oh, yes. Good.
Now, celebrities, like so many, were outraged when they saw these pictures of kids being separated from their families. Peter Fonda as well. He tweeted this. He said, "We should rip Barron Trump from his mother's arm and put him in a cage with pedophiles and see if mother will," this is his misstep here, "stand up against the giant blank hole she is married to. 90 million people in the streets on the same weekend in the country," and then F-bomb. This is the level of discourse we have naturally.
What's the last movie he was in, Peter Fonda?
I think Easy Rider.
I mean,
he's been in
when
a
we
few
say
others.
aging rock star, I mean, that's someone aged. Why are we calling him aging? Aged.
Well, he's got a new movie coming out from Sony Classics, but people are saying it shouldn't be released given these comments. Melania Trump called the Secret Service.
Good.
And they should have been called. You're threatening the person of not only the First Lady, but the first son. You can't do this. Now, he's since apologized, Laura, and he sent out a thing saying, look, I tweeted something highly inappropriate and vulgar about the president and his family. Like many Americans, I'm impassioned and distraught over the situation with children separated from their families at the border. But here's the problem. You and I have friends, Democratic friends, who were very upset when President Obama had his deportation policy and was incarcerating people, families. In 2014, I don't remember anybody threatening the first daughters or the first lady. We've got to tamp this down. Your outrage over policy is not a free pass to hate, threaten, demean people. We've got to keep this on the topic and not allow our emotions to take over. I'm really worried. I see hatred all over social media, and it's personal. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. And what they're doing with the phone numbers and harassing people in restaurants. And if this had been done, I keep saying to Loretta Lynch, or going back to like Janet Reno, I don't know why she comes to mind, but any of really going back.
Donna Shalala. Anybody else you'd like to bring up from the golden past? Pat Buchanan. We'll go back to Casper Weinberger. Anybody else you'd like to touch from the?
That's what they'd be outraged. Okay,
they would be
outraged. Punchy tonight. Don't you dare do that.
No, by the way, before we leave the Fondas, Jane Fonda is getting a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Of course she is.
From the Michael Moore Film Festival. I'm going to get you a ticket.
Okay. Oh, good.
We got to move on to the F-bomb squad.
I'll wear my dirty baseball cap.
I've been noticing something out there. Since Robert De Niro got up at the Tony Awards and just yelled F-bomb Trump repeatedly, we're seeing this in celebrity culture. Kathy Griffin, now John Legend. Over Father's Day weekend, Paul Ryan tweeted out, "Oh, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there." Legend tweets back, "Seriously? F you. Reunite the families at the border and we can talk about Father's Day."
John taking some of the families in his compound in Malibu. Why doesn't he bring them all over to his house? Okay, let's really treat them the right way. Let's give them life Hollywood style, Malibu style. I'm sure they'll be hanging out at the cafes in the morning, sipping their tea. If John Legend will bring them in,
if people want to disagree over the policy, disagree, but do it amiably and civilly.
Was John Legend upset during Obama's time when he was
he's
supporting
upset
all those
now.
people?
My problem is they're insinuating a vulgarity into the culture and teaching our kids, yours and mine, that it's okay to just throw an F-bomb, no reason, no argument, just attack. That's not good enough. That's not acceptable. Now I want to get to somebody that's more than acceptable.
We got 3 minutes here.
Chris Pratt was given the Generation Award at the MTV Movie Awards this past week. I want to share this with you. He listed 9 rules. Now, he used this opportunity. He had a few jokes. He talked about his family. And then he listed 9 rules for living. Watch this.
God is real. God loves you. God wants the best for you. Believe that. I do. Learn to pray. It's easy, and it's so good for your soul.
But look at the reaction.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
See, he also talked about being an influencer and using your platform to affect and touch other people.
Something good.
He's doing it. And when kids like mine, my Lorenzo loves Chris Pratt, the Parks and Rec Chris Pratt, the Star-Lord Chris Pratt, and the Jurassic Park Chris Pratt. When he says it, it's different than you or I saying it or somebody else. These are people they really look up to. I love that he's using his platform to uplift people and young people. And then he went on And how often do you hear a celebrity talk about the soul
I'll
and
talk
tell
about-
young people,
we all need to
why
talk
don't you
about the
pray?
soul.
We do, to remember what this is about and the journey we're really on. But then he said this. So often we hear, sweetheart, you're perfect, don't change. Chris Pratt had a different message.
And finally, number 9, nobody is perfect. People are going to tell you you're perfect just the way you are. You're not. You are imperfect. You always will be. But there is a powerful force that designed you that way. And if you're willing to accept that, you will have grace. And grace is a gift. And like the freedom that we enjoy in this country, that grace was paid for with somebody else's blood. Do not forget it. Don't take it for granted.
I'm going to the church of Chris Pratt.
I just love the reaction.
I need homilies like that at Mass. I mean, come on.
Uplifting, fun. He told a poop joke. He told other things. Interesting. Cosmo, when they reported this, they didn't mention any of his God talk.
Oh,
they
that's
just
a
mentioned
shock.
the jokes. But that was a critical thing we just heard.
Wow.
You're not perfect. We are all imperfect. We're all craving grace and need it. And I love that Chris Pratt brought us some grace and brought it to young people who need to be uplifted. They're often attacked with stuff we heard earlier today. F-bombs, being
and you know,
crass,
Raymond, you mentioned this
very
point,
different
and
message.
social media, I mean, it's so easy. Social media is such a bad influence. There's so much dark, awful stuff on social media, and that's actually just what I needed tonight.
Me
So,
too.
Thank you for
See,
sharing.
I'm glad I could bring a little unseen light.
I'm not in a. I feel very. It's very awkward having such a positive.
You want something a little more
Yeah, can we
negative.
go back to satire? This
All right.
is very uncomfortable.
Friday
for me.
is coming. We'll find something.
Friday Follies.
satirical
Okay.
for you.
All right. We might have the biggest revelation yet, by the way. The entire course of the Hillary and Russia investigations. What am I talking about? Potentially explosive bombshell dropped in a House hearing. Why could change everything. A major development in the Hillary Clinton and Russia investigations. Congressman Mark Meadows says FBI agents might have altered witness reports, what the Bureau calls 302s.
There is growing evidence that 302s were edited and changed. It is suggested that they were changed to either prosecute or not prosecute individuals, and that is very troubling.
During yesterday's House hearing, DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz replied that he may have information confirming that, and he was investigating it. If the FBI agents committed crimes by altering evidence, the consequences would be enormous. Let's discuss that with former FBI National Spokesperson John Iannarelli and former U.S. Attorney Guy Lewis. John, let's start with you. Have you ever heard of anything like this before?
Absolutely not. There is no way to alter a document without consequences. That's very, very basic in the rules of the FBI, even to the point if I put the incorrect date on a report, I would do a separate 302 to reflect I mistakenly put the incorrect date. There's no changing the facts of anything.
I want to talk to Guy about this as well. I think it's important to listen to part of the exchange from yesterday when Meadows was questioning Horowitz, again, about the identity of these individuals whose names were not used in this report. Let's watch.
You said, I think I'm correct, that they did not want that divulged because they actually worked in counterintelligence. Is that correct?
That's what we were told by the FBI.
Those two attorneys, do they not work for Trish Anderson?
Those two attorneys work in the Office of General Counsel.
Yeah, and so would one of those attorneys be Sally Moyer?
I'm going to defer to what the FBI
But they don't work in
requested from them.
counterintelligence. I mean, if that's the reason the FBI is giving, they're giving you false information because they work for the General Counsel.
Guy, what's going on here? Is this could this be potentially criminal wrongdoing on the part of the FBI for not mislabeling, improperly identifying the general identity of these actors in this report? And why do we have to keep their names secret? To me, it's if they're working for the general counsel, why are we keeping their names secret?
Laura, it makes no sense, and it is a big deal. It truly is. John's 100% right in the sense that you don't go in and start doctoring, changing reports, 302s. The 302, the report that the FBI uses, is meant to take down investigation things that are happening, activities of the investigation, and also when you sit there and interview, like when they were interviewing Secretary Clinton, they would have generated one 302 as a result of the interview. Now, they can't go back and make changes, and if they've lied about it to the OIG, that in and of itself is a criminal offense subject to prosecution. It's very, very serious business.
Well, you worked with both Christopher Wray and Michael Horowitz, Guy. So, I mean, do these guys take this seriously? I mean, Horowitz kind of seemed to want to defer on naming one of the individuals. He wouldn't confirm or deny it was this Sally Moyer. But Christopher Wray was like, oh, none of this impacts the credibility of the Bureau. He was coming out and defending the Bureau about the overall report the other day. But, I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, this can't stand, can it?
Laura, I understand Chris, Director Wray, defending the Bureau. There's a lot of great women and men out there that are just working their hearts out to keep us safe day in and day out. But when you look at what happened here, the very top of this really elite law enforcement agency, the director, the assistant director, who's now been referred to prosecution, the director who's been fired, some would say in disgrace, the deputy assistant director was led out of the building and walked and escorted out of the building. And then you look at the lawyers and how Mike Horowitz, the IG, who is a tough nut, he is a hard-nosed prosecutor, and I believe truly that he's going to get to the bottom of this. But when you look at the top of the organization,
right.
I got to tell you, Laura, it's very, very, very troubling.
Yeah, John, the fish rots from the head. Is that the saying? I think the head down, or I mean, the head of the fish is rotten. The fish is dead, or the fish is rotten. I don't know, but it seems to me that you can't come out and say after this IG report, oh, the Bureau stands on its credibility and the great men. Of course, there are great men and women, but two of the most important investigations of the last 5-10 years. Hillary email investigation and the Trump-Russia investigation. Hillary email investigation had real problems. Now it looks like they may have altered the documents.
Well, what I would suggest to Director Wray, I think he's doing the right thing in trying to clean house of the problems that existed under his predecessor. In the goodwill speech to the troops, it's important to keep the morale up because the vast majority of these agents and support personnel are doing a great job. But as far as talking to the general public, the public wants to have confidence in the FBI. If I could make any suggestions to the director, it's time to face the public directly and say, mistakes were made. I'm working at cleaning up the mistakes so that you can have confidence. Not say everything's fine, because right now it isn't. Public perception is bad.
And Guy, that's a great point. I mean, you want to see him mad. You want to see Chris Wray really upset, like this can't be. We have great people. It's not going to happen on my watch. This is ridiculous. We get to the bottom of it. I think that's a great point, John. But Guy, on this issue of extracting texts, why is it that the DOJ will not get these text messages to members of Congress and obviously to the OIG in a timely fashion? They had to go to the Department of Defense, the Inspector General's office, had to go there to get the texts. What's that about?
Laura, there's no excuse for it, really. I mean, you can raise objections, you can raise these kind of broad, hey, it's a matter under investigation. But what this does, in my judgment, having done this for 30 plus years and tried some fairly significant cases, it taints everything. I mean, you can't come out and say, look, I'm conducting this investigation, the Russia investigation. I've conducted this investigation, the Clinton investigation, and I've closed it out. I got to tell you, I have no faith right now in what went on in the Clinton case and what's going on in the Russia case. Truly, I don't, because of exactly what you're talking about.
Fantastic segment and panel. Thank you so much to both of you. Both highly experienced people with actual knowledge about how this type of process works. Really important for the developments we brought to you tonight. And up next, we reveal how China may be stealing our high-tech secrets right under our noses. Chinese universities. Chinese government-related organizations are providing huge bucks to more than 50 American universities for joint high-tech projects. The problem? These actually may be attempts to steal U.S. research and technology. Dozens of lawmakers are asking Education Secretary Betsy DeVos to investigate the potential threat to national security. Let's get details from Defense Department and consultant Mike Pillsbury, who just got back from China, just off the plane. He's writing up a report on this very subject. Michael, the Confucian Institutes, we've heard about this before.
Yes.
At some point, we heard there was 100 Confucian centers at universities. Rubio wants a lot of these things re-examined and shut down. What's really happening here?
There are more than 100. America has the most Confucius Institutes.
What are they, Confucius Institutes?
On the surface, they are pure language training places where you come in and learn about Chinese festivals. You know, yesterday was Dragon Boat Festival. You know how to say that in Mandarin. So on the surface, they appear to be performing a function, but they pay universities, sometimes $5 million, sometimes $10 million. Often they have a secret contract. So there's a second side to them, that they tend to have objections if the Dalai Lama wants to come and speak. This actually happened in San Diego.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, so
they're a channel of influence on the university as a whole.
Extremely smart. Chinese are very smart.
We don't do this.
We don't do this kind of thing.
We don't have the George Washington Institutes all over China. Plus, they would block it because it would be a channel for American values.
So we think Voice of America, Radio Free.
Well, they jam.
Yeah,
they jam it.
But we think that's the way that we put McDonald's everywhere, and that's gonna help. But in fact, we don't export our values of free market, free people, free expression. They say, oh no, these are our rules.
We'd be a bully
China.
to do that. You see, that would be un-American somehow if we push our ways onto the Chinese people. This is what the Chinese say back to us. But besides the Confucius Institutes, what this pressure on Betsy DeVos today is, there seem to be many other channels, Huawei contracts with more than 50 universities, where they seem to be targeting our most innovative research and laboratories, signing contracts that the senators want to see. And apparently the first fruit of some of these research organizations at the universities goes to China. So our competitiveness, our most innovative S&T, is being peeled off before American companies even get it. You have to admire the chutzpah.
But the American universities, I would say, are purposefully ignorant. Huge money. It's they love the foreign students coming in too.
Right.
Why, Mike? They pay cash.
Tons of money. Well,
cash.
1/3 of all foreign students now are Chinese.
Right. At Ivy League institutions, all the University of California system.
Yes.
Incredibly smart people, but they are looking to get our IP as it's being developed.
Yes. Before our companies can get it,
and
or the government.
The sovereign wealth funds going in and investing
That's
early.
Another channel.
That's another channel.
And all this seems to be controlled and targeted by the very top in China. We used to think this was just free market companies do this. The
government's doing this. They have the China 2020 plan, and this is part of it, I believe.
That used to be the conspiracy theory. Now it's a White House document today.
Peter Navarro's report just came out.
Peter Navarro's report, where he uses these buzzwords about economic aggression.
We're going to get into more of that.
Report.
That's a really important report. Mike Pillsbury, thank you. We'll be right back.